Where is the outrage for Congo, Sudan, Yemen, Uyghur, Ethiopia, etc.? We actually had those outrages a few years ago, especially the Uyghur one on Facebook. I guess people just get tired when a shocking thing becomes normal. Like, I remember in 2022 most were on Ukraine's side and idolized their president. When it became about funding Ukraine, it became funding a war, and so a lot of people have turned against Ukraine. It used to shock us that a hospital was bombed by Russian forces, but now it's not even becoming viral compared to the latest war trends. You can't care about every single conflict in the world. You'll just wear yourself out. You can pick one cause and care about it. It sucks when other causes aren't getting attention, and then it's good to spread awareness and do concrete actions to try and end them. There was a bit of noise over the Uyghur some years ago. China is pretty tight at the hip with much of the world economically, so there's not a whole lot we can do about it. We're also not allies the way they are with Russia and Korea, Iran. Israel also gets way more attention through the media. How long have the whole Congo, Sudan, Yemen, etc. situations been going on? What is our relationship with those countries? I think a lot of people expect those sort of things from that part of the world. Is your dad familiar with @wikipedia.org Wikideath Arabs reactions? Palestine's conflict started way back and it still hasn't reached any meaningful conclusions. If we are going to work on something, should we change the project when it's not having any results and try pivoting like startups? Except for Uyghurs that are facing China, it seems that Palestinians are facing the strongest oppressors. If this one ends in a success, the path to solving other ones again except for China would be much easier if it's not obvious. This is just my hypothesis. If you care so much about other genocides, why did you leave out the other genocides currently going on? Which of those regimes does the US give billions of dollars a year in military aid to? The US has a military alliance with Israel. That's why it gets coverage. The US and Europe have Jewish people there, historically for a long time. We have interests in Israel as a stronghold in the Middle East. The outrage is there. The media just doesn't report it as much because, as horrible as they are simply internal civil crises and at the same severity of a full-on ethnic cleansing of an entire culture and history. Plus, they don't sell as much. The Ethiopian crisis is akin to the Yugoslav wars back in the day. The Palestinian crisis is like watching Nazis 2.0. Massacre and genocide are two very different words. There is no genocide, but there is a massacre. The reason you even use the word genocide so freely has been influenced by leftists redefining words to increase the power of their message. You're distorting reality to gain attention. A genocide does not lead to a doubling of population of Palestinians in Gaza the last 20 years. If Israel wanted a genocide, there would not be an increase of their own Arab-Israeli population either. The reason people are so focused on Israel is because of an obsession of Jewish people by most Muslim countries that have been taught anti-Semitism. The Palestinianist movement is an Arab ultranationalist and irredentist movement at its core. Many Arabs fear losing power over non-Arab minorities in the Middle East and is therefore scared of the only non-Arab country in the Middle East being allowed to exist and prosper. Which is why Palestinians have supported Saddam Hussein, someone who committed genocide on the non-Arab Kurds, and Omar al-Bashir, someone who committed genocide on the non-Arab Darfuris. When the Arabs are used to supremacy, treating them like how they treat minorities feels like the worst atrocity ever to them. Israel allows ethnic minorities like the Druze to express themselves openly and freely, which is why the Arab nationalists are fearful that other minorities may find that it's possible to prosper when free from Arab oppression. Well, first of all, it's impossible for people to educate themselves about every world conflict, but at least in the US. I think the Israel-Palestine thing is a big deal, because Israel is one of our closest allies, and 99 of our politicians shill for them on a regular basis. Plus all the money we're giving them. Absolutely, the US has been funding violence all over the world for decades, but in addition to Israel's recent slaughter of Gazans is the fact that AIPAC plays such a strong role in American politics. They spent over $100 million last year trying to primary the squad. No such thing as Muslim Brotherhood. Erdogan and the mushroom heads only care about kicking the Jews out. Even bootlicking South Africa don't give a shit about other African countries. We all know what this is really about. In the UK, activists have taken the matter of arms sales to Saudi Arabia to the Supreme Court because of their use against Yemen. Our government also has a somewhat frosty relationship with China. We export far more arms to Israel than we do to the countries that I haven't mentioned. We also have a government that openly supports Israel. That is not the case for the other countries mentioned. If my government did not support Israel, then there would be less push for the government to change policy. There is also the matter of scale. In 4 months, Israel has killed more children than all other conflicts did in the 4 years prior. HTTPS. I support the international sanctions against Russia. Israel is also committed to an offensive war and should be receiving sanctions instead of weapons shipments. Religious tribal wars have been going on for centuries. The Middle East is the center of it all. There is no right and wrong here. Your dad is correct. Oldest hatred in history. Give it time, and eventually no one will care about Palestine as well. They are not on the internet. In the West, we have almost zero exposure to their realities. However, there are several other genocides across the world in places such as Congo, Sudan, Yemen, Uyghur, Ethiopia, and so much more. How many of those genocides are being actively supported by Western governments? Many Western governments are actively supporting Israel in their atrocities against Palestinians, hence the protests and attention they are getting. The main reason why Palestine is opposed to those other conflicts is that Israel is only able to do what they are doing because of tools and resources being supplied to them by countries like the USA, Canada, UK, Germany, etc. So people in those countries who support Palestine are being super vocal, because it is literally as simple as cutting off those payments, weapons shipments. While Western imperialism is absolutely still the root of what has created the issues in Congo, Sudan, Uyghur, and Ethiopia, and they absolutely deserve attention. There is no single-step obvious solution that Western governments can do to stop those conflicts immediately, quite like there is when it comes to Israel. In regards to Yemen, unless you are referring to Saudi imperialist actions there, I don't think we would agree on what the issue is in that country. While I do not support the Houthis in the sense that I do not agree with their ideology, they are the primary rebel force against a Saudi puppet regime that was very oppressive. In this, I don't feel like it is really my place to comment on the affair. I think it's wrong what Saudi Arabia is doing in Yemen. But like I said, I do not agree with the Houthi ideology.